Okay, good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to this ACCA webinar, Classroom Career Activities to empower your students. We are going to be starting in about 2 minutes' time. So yeah, thank you for joining us this afternoon. Please feel free to use the chat function where you're joining us from. And yeah, if you do have any questions through the session, we will be taking them. So we're going to start in just under 2 minutes' time. So for those just joining, good afternoon. We're going to be starting in just in about 1 minute time. Please feel free to use the chat function. We'll be taking any questions in the latter part of today's session. Okay, so I think we're going to make a start and allow for other people to join as we go through the session. So good afternoon, everyone, and thank you for joining ACCA session entitled Classroom Careers Activities to Empower Your Students with ACCA. My name is George Chunias, Early Careers Manager at ACCA, and I'm also joined by Rob Alder, ACCA's Head of Apprenticeships. Now, this session is aptly taking place during T-Levels Week in England, which celebrates the positive impact that the T-level qualification is having. Now, this webinar is part of a wider series of webinars that we are running to redefine the accountant and provide opportunities for young people, parents, guardians, and educators like yourself to understand more about a career in accounting and finance, dispel myths and showcase the range of opportunities available. Now, so those of you joining on the call this afternoon might have already informed of the young people in your schools or colleges, because we've already run the Day in the Life of an Apprentice 2 days ago, and yesterday we had a Future Leaders webinar. Our overarching aim is to widen access to the accountancy profession. Following a brief introduction to ACCA by myself, I will be handing over to Rob to talk about pathways for young people into accountancy, and before going into the types of activities and resources that we can offer to support the learning journey for your students to introduce them to careers in accounting and finance. First things first, this session is due to finish at 4:45, and we will have time for Q&A towards the end of the session. Should you wish to ask any questions, please pop them into the chat or use the Q&A function. We will leave enough time as possible to try and get through as many of those questions as possible. So, who is ACCA? So for those of you that don't know and have joined us, so ACCA, the Association of Chartered Certified Accountants, is the global professional body for those working in accounting and finance. We have over 250,000 members in over 180 countries. We're truly a global organization, just like the profession itself. We offer the qualifications for accounting and finance professionals. So they essentially, once they become qualified, they have a global passport with their qualification that can unlock career opportunities. Now, for students, we say that our professional body, in that sense, that they don't really understand what that is. We say they might have heard of Edexcel or AQA, that they can think about when they think of the exams they're taking. In a qualification sense, a professional body is similar, but it's much wider than that, because once you are taking our qualifications and you become qualified, you become part of the ACCA community. Now, young people are always interested when we've had the sessions around where can a career in accounting and finance take us. And I've got a slide here with just some examples to just illustrate when talking to students. So as I said, the ACCA qualification is a global passport to unlock opportunity. We have members working in all industries from TikTok, Formula One, the United Nations, British Airways, all over the world. And I think one thing that we got across to the young people that we've engaged with is accountants are and will always be in demand everywhere. And it's much more than just numbers. No business can actually function without a finance professional. One of the things that young people are really interested in hearing is about pathways into accountancy. And this is where I will hand over to my colleague Rob, who is Head of Apprenticeships and Relationships at ACCA, to give a brief introduction to himself and also the pathways.
Thanks very much, George. Good afternoon, evening, everyone. Thanks for joining our webinar. Yes, I'll just tell you a little bit more about the pathways that we have, and just briefly about the role I do at ACCA. So as Head of Apprenticeships, it's a new role which recognises, the kind of new route into the profession. As many as you probably know, accountancy is a very diverse profession, and the majority of people still go via university into the profession, but through apprenticeships and through AAT and T levels now and other routes. What my role is highlighting is that there are different routes into the profession, and I work with employers, providers, schools, colleges, to encourage people to look at that alternative route. George, if we can go on to the next slide, that would be great. Yep. Thank you. So just want to talk about the UK accountancy market, just to give you a bit of background in terms of the sector. And I think the first thing is it's a very important sector as part of the UK economy. And people, when you think about a career in accountancy, a lot of people think about working for an accounting firm and Big Four and all those kind of things. But actually, the important point about accountancy as a career and finance or financial professionals, which it really covers, is that it's in all types of industry, all types of size of business, all different sectors. So, and the great thing is that you can train in all those businesses as well. You don't have to train in an accounting firm. It's also quite diverse in terms of the different types of accountancy bodies that you may or may not have come across. So there are different bodies in the UK, quite a few, which makes things a little bit confusing. In other countries that I've worked in, there's just one body for that country, which makes life a lot simpler. But in the UK, we've got a bit of competition. So there's 5, and in fact there's one in Scotland as well. But I'll just go through these main ones here. So there's AAT, which you may have heard of. This is the entry level into accountancy. So it's level 2, 3, 4 qualifications and apprentices as well. So the traditional route for not going to university has been to do AAT and then into senior level accountancy. And then the bodies after AAT are all senior chartered accountancy bodies. So all at that same level of being a chartered accountant. ACCA, obviously, that's us, and we cover all sectors. And I think our main difference is that we are a global organisation. So again, if you go to any country, ACCA will be there. It's a globally recognised qualification, works with a lot of local bodies. But in the UK, it's a very well established qualification. We're based in the UK, and it's in all sectors. So training and qualified accountants with ACCA will work in the public sector, the private sector, or firms as well. So opens up a lot of opportunities for students in terms of where they can take the qualification. CIMA stands for the Chartered Institute of Management Accounting. It's more focused on management accounting, which is more industry and practice and a bit of public sector as well. CIPFA is the public sector one, Chartered Institute of Public Financial Accountant, and ICAW is mainly practice. So a lot of the large firms will recruit and train with ICAW, just in case, any of those kind of names. And I think with the accountancy, I noticed that quite a lot of businesses, quite a lot of bodies are all promoting to schools and explaining it, but we're all kind of doing the same thing. We are all promoting the profession. There's just different routes into them. Another point just to raise as well is within the UK market at the moment, there's a big shortage of accountants, so they're in demand. So a lot of organisations want accountants, want to train accountants at an apprenticeship level and a graduate level. As you can see there, that survey, that 45% of firms are quoting a severe or significant impact because they haven't got enough staff to do the work. So it's a sector that's growing, and a sector that needs more talent, and a sector that really wants to attract new talent into the profession as well, because as you probably know, and it's something that we're aware of and our employers are aware of, to kind of get a 16, 17-year-old interested in a career in accountancy can be a bit of a challenge. But obviously one of the things that we're saying is, well, there's a lot more to it now as a job, as a career. Technology means that does a lot of the traditional kind of data crunching work. The job of an accountant now is very much using that information, analyzing that information, making decisions, and working with clients on that information. So it's a different role, and it's changing all the time as technology impacts the role, like a lot of professions. Go to the next slide then, please, George. Yes, so those routes, as I mentioned earlier, traditionally it's been university, and just a note on that, you can do, or, you can advise your students to do a degree in accounting and finance, or a kind of non-relevant degree like history and geography or law or something, and move into accountancy. That's still a very common and accepted route. So employers will look for the degree and critically the university and the A levels when they're looking at recruiting for graduate accountants. They're not necessarily looking for people with accountancy degrees. The benefit of doing an accountancy degree is obviously you're showing interest in doing accounting, and it gives you exemptions as you progress through professional training. So you'll have less exams to do. But the main message there is that if someone wants to become an accountant via the university route, they don't have to do an accountancy degree. As I mentioned earlier, apprenticeships are increasingly popular. A few years ago, the government, revamped apprenticeships and included incentives for employers that made them attract and recruit more school leavers. And they found that actually this was a great way of getting people into the industry, harnessing talent at a younger age. And yeah, it's been very successful and has grown and grown. Something that's quite new, that may be new to a number of you in England, is T-levels, which is a two-year level 3 course that you would do instead of an A level, and you would just do accounting. It's growing very quickly at the moment. There's 40 FE colleges and sixth form centres around England that are running T-levels. There's about 1,000 students, and then the route then is into a level 3 or level 4 apprenticeship. So yeah, something else for some of your students who maybe don't want to take an academic route and don't want to go straight into the workforce at 16 to do a T-level in accounting. As I mentioned, that's England. In the UK, Scotland and Wales are slightly different. They have slightly different apprenticeships, but all are very much geared to kind of a similar principle of a kind of more vocational work-based training rather than traditional go to university and join the profession. Okay, so yeah, I've mentioned some of this about apprenticeships. I don't want to go into too much detail there. It's in the slides really, but I think the main thing is different levels of accountancy apprenticeships, and level 2 is a kind of GCSE level. So a lot of students, if they're leaving after GCSEs to get an apprenticeship in accountancy, would start at level 2. If they leave after A level, they're probably doing a level 3. And level 4 is the kind of starting point for chartered accountancy, and then that goes all the way up to level 7, which is the kind of end point. So what I mentioned earlier about the apprenticeship, so a lot of employers are recruiting school leavers on a level 3, probably on a 2 to 3 year program, to get them qualified to a certain level, and then with the kind of option then to put them all the way through to chartered accountancy. Most of them do that option, but it's interesting that they're kind of taking them on in a kind of, for 2 years initially, then with an extra 3 years after that. Okay, we can go to the next slide, please. Yeah, so the benefits of apprenticeships for employers, and I think that the main message here would be there's a lot of employers probably in your local area that are recruiting for accountancy apprenticeships. So they like them because they say they're cost effective, it's good quality training, they have better retention rates, there's a diversity and bringing different types of talent into the organization. And they quite like having younger people. Sometimes graduates can just come in, get qualified and disappear. So they quite like school leavers. And I think the message to school leavers, to people, you're advising, is obviously the whole issue about university debt. They'd avoid that because they'd be being paid to work and to study, which is very advantageous. The local vacancies, again, I think this is the most important thing. So there's two links there to some websites. There's the National Apprenticeship Service website, which has all vacancies across all sectors. Just key in your postcode and you'll find who's recruiting. And there's another one as well called Get My First Job, which we'd recommend. Again, lots of jobs on there and lots of advice and support as well. I think the last point is a really important one. If any of your students say, "Oh, if I don't get a degree, will that hold me back in terms of my career in accountancy?" And the overarching thing is it won't. Once you're qualified, once you're ACCA qualified or CIMA qualified, that's what people will look at. They won't look at whether you've done a degree or not. It's then the fact you're a qualified accountant, and then it's really what you can deliver and what you do and your experience. We've got examples of partners, lots of partners who've gone through that school leaver route onto partner level within a firm. So it won't hold them back. So don't tell them to worry about that. If they wanted to get a degree, they could do within ACCA at the latter stages. You can also build in a degree by taking extra units through one of our university partners. So just something to make clear there.
Yeah. Rob, I'm just going to jump in because there's a question in the chat around.
Oh, yeah. Sorry, yeah.
Yeah, so that's fine. I thought it's good as we go through because you're talking about kind of what you can do. So someone said, well, Sharon has said, can year 13 student with A levels apply for a degree apprenticeship with ACCA or accounting opportunity? And if so, what A levels do you need?
Yeah, when you say degree apprenticeship, yeah, I mean, a lot of it is geared to, obviously, with an apprenticeship, you need to have the job, have the apprenticeship opportunity with the employer. With the employers themselves, they tend to recruit people on a level 3, level 4 program initially, and then on to level 7. Some of the big four do take them on at a level 7 program. So that's the likes of PwC and Deloitte. So yes, it is possible, but it's not really a degree apprenticeship. It's more just a level 7 apprenticeship. So there would be no degree within it. So yeah, that's just something just to
in
sure.
Terms of the A level, so we do have a application masterclass next week, which I will give some details for that. But the company that's running that, so it does the entry requirements for an apprenticeship vary from company to company. But some companies would like to have an A level in either not necessarily maths, but like a bit like math. It could be maths, it could be further maths, it could be business, it could be economics. And some companies don't require that sort of element to do an apprenticeship with them. So it does depend from company to company. So yeah.
Okay. And Sharon, just notice we have students going to level 6. Is that level 6 in accountancy? Because that's a very new program. So accountancy hasn't really got a level 6 yet. Anyway, I'll carry on. But yeah, answer that one. I mentioned T levels earlier. This is the more detail about it. I think the big difference between a T level and any other programs is the 9-week industry placement. So that's the important thing there. So it's a 2-year program, but they have to do 9 weeks of work experience, and it's a bit more than work experience. It's actual placements. They learn a lot. They have a structured program, but it all prepares them for when they're applying for jobs afterwards. So it's a very good it's a very good program, and within accounting it seems to be very popular. And we support I personally work closely with the colleges and the employers to try and make sure there is that pathway from the students doing a T-level onto those apprenticeship programs as well. And there's a similar kind of program in Scotland called Foundation Apprenticeships. It's the same principle. They're at school mainly, and they get some experience to then use when they're applying for jobs. So this is a quick summary really of the options for young people. And now A levels is the kind of traditional one that everyone's aware of, subject-based qualification, 2 years at college, school, mainly leading on to higher education, but doesn't have to, but that's the academic route. The T-level foundation route is the technical route, which is the technical programs with that industry placement. It's 80% in the classroom, 20% on a placement, leading to skilled employment, although some people are applying to higher education with T-levels, skilled employment and or higher apprenticeships. And then apprenticeships, again, they can start at 16, work-based training at level 2, 3, with 80% on the job and then 20% off the job in terms of studying on an apprenticeship and a recognised qualification. So that is mainly an AAT type route at that level. What this means in terms of a summary, in terms of routes into accountancy, is that there's the kind of A-level university route, be it relevant or non-relevant degree. And obviously, if they've got a relevant degree, it gives them exemptions so they can go quicker onto the ACCA qualification. There's the T-level route, which is the kind of college-based technical route, 2 years, and then they should then progress on to level 4 apprenticeship. And then there's the apprenticeship route straight at 16, where they start straight into work. They work their way up from doing AAT up to level 2, 3, onto 4, which is the starting point for chartered accountancy. That's a quick summary of it all. I hope that's been helpful. If there's any more questions now, happy to answer them. If not, I'll pass back to George, and then we can answer any other outstanding questions at the end.
Yeah, great. Thanks, Rob. Yeah, really insightful information there. So I'm going to talk about the early careers work that we are doing at ACCA and how we can support students in the classroom via their teachers. So at ACCA, we really want to raise the profile of the profession and to inspire and track new talent to join ACCA's thriving and inclusive global community. And we're doing this, as I said, we've had a series of webinars looking at the sphere of influence of a young person. So not only the young person, but also through their parents, guardians, and also educators. As I said, we've already had 2 sessions. There were some teachers on last night's session. So there is still another webinar that's taking place next week, and we will provide some information for that if you would like to join or for your students. Now, there's various things that we have available that we can offer to schools. So we recently developed some leaflets aimed at young people, as you can see on screen. So they're like a Z fold that open up. These can be requested with us, and our contact details will be at the end of this, should you wish to have some for your students. They're very visual, so it offers kind of the breadth of opportunities, the different sectors that young people could work in within accountancy. And then, so some other things. So I think it's last week, many of you might know the Careers and Enterprise Company. So they recently launched their 2023-24 Student Career Readiness Report. And I think it had over 230,000 students from almost 1,000 secondary schools take place in the Future Skills questionnaires. And one of the striking insights that this report revealed was that while students are feeling more career ready than they might have done in the past, they're still rating themselves relatively low at the age of 16 on speaking, listening, leadership, and teamwork. And these are all critical skills. And every time we present to young people, and teachers are present, even if they're not, I always say about the importance of soft skills. As an ex-teacher myself, I always used to tell students, your grades are really important, but also the soft skills. And when we speak to employers, they say that when young people come into the workplace, they need this soft skill development. So one of the things that we have recently developed is an early careers workshop, which will be available from early next year. It's a business scenario which is completed in groups. So it's in groups of 30 or less. It's delivered by ACCA or a local professional, and that will help enhance engagement with a local business. It touches on some of those skills, so teamwork, listening, speaking. The workshop is around students working on a podcast, and they get different tasks that they have to do, some unexpected. There's some analysis they have to do, which are some of the skills within accountancy, as well as kind of coming up with ideas. Suitable for year 12 to 13, so 16 to 18-year-olds, and duration is around 60 to 90 minutes. What we also have, where possible, we can look to have a local professional ambassador from the ACCA community deliver a careers talk in your school or college. We've been invited on numerous occasions to come in to talk about, just like this, about the opportunities in the profession and also the pathways. I think one of the things, speaking with the young people the last few days, is they really want to know how to get into the profession. And then finally, as I've said about the webinars, that we've still, one more webinar we've got next week on the 10th of December, which is around accountancy and finance application masterclass. So a lot of young people that might want to be applying for an apprenticeship would like to know how they go about doing that. So we've got that coming up. Now, in terms of resources available to students as well as educators, as I said, the webinar, I'm going to put all this information into the chat as well. There's a parent and guardian guide that to the ACCA qualification. It's also really good for educators to have handy, because it showcases a bit of what Rob was talking about in terms of the entry paths. Also, a really great resource that was very good for students is our free online courses. So there's a platform called ACCAX that offers a range of free courses, and it's a really good taster for those students that might be interested. They're free, they're level 2, 3, and they can be accessed by students, but also educators if you're interested in having a go at those sessions. We have the ACCA careers website, so there's lots of information in terms of they do have internship, work experience, entry-level roles that are posted in there. But also what's really good, there's careers advice, there's things around soft skills, interview skills. There's also a podcast that there is that can be accessed, and it gives lots of really rich information to do with accountancy, but also in terms of the soft skills side. And then finally, there's our early career site that we encourage you to leverage, where it talks about the different pathways for school leavers, but also if students were to go to university and what the options are there. And there's also some videos that, if you wanted to, we use these videos in our workshops, but also in our talks, as how finance is used in Formula One, how accountancy is more than just numbers. And as I said, I'm going to be posting those into the chat. But I think what we're going to do now, we're going to have some time for some Q&A. So yeah, please feel free to use the chat to take so we can take any questions that you might have. If you're interested in us delivering something at your school, I'm going to pop some information into the chat how you can get in touch with us. So yeah, we will look at the chat if there is any questions. So we will be sharing the slides. So there's a question here. Are there age restrictions for mature graduate student entry?
Yes, not that I'm aware of. I mean, obviously, with employment legislation and everything now, they've got to be very careful about those kind of things. So no, I mean, a lot of graduate recruitment is now done quite differently and use different assessment methodology and almost like blind applications as well. So no, the official answer is no.
Thank you. Okay, so for the contact details, if you go to our the feedback form, there's a part at the end where you can put information about requesting one of our sessions. But also we've got our emails here. So you've got Rob's email, or you've got a school's email that we have, schoolsuk@acccaglobal.com. So in the Q&A tab, I'm just going to have a look. Some coming.
Oh yeah, there's just one come in from Christabel. What are the key responsibilities of someone within an accounting and finance, please? Yeah, it's a good question, and there's different levels of responsibility. Because I was kind of showing you the different kind of level 2, 3, 4, and everything. That's a great thing about accountancy, that there is a variety of roles. So we're talking a lot about being a chartered accountant, a senior level accountant, who would have responsibilities for managing the finance of that business, if they're an industry or business or public sector. Within an accounting firm, a qualified accountant would be doing working with clients, working with their businesses. A lot of the work is that if they're a large business, they need to do an audit. So there's a lot of the accounting responsibilities is to do with auditing. There's advising clients on tax. That's quite important at a whole range of levels. And then there's obviously helping small businesses with their tax return. So the fundamental responsibility is to manage the financial well-being of a business, and to look at how much money is coming in, what everything is costing, and making decisions or advising directors on future direction and strategy. Increasingly at that senior level, it's a lot more strategic, and more business and strategic in terms of making business decisions, rather than just going through the kind of traditional kind of manual kind of looking at the numbers and that kind of thing. There's still that function that exists in all levels, but increasingly I think that's where the profession is heading.
And a really interesting point that we've heard time and time again, that for young people, that they think about accountancy and they might not necessarily be good at maths, and they might think that's not for me, and it's definitely not the case. The sessions that we've had come before with actual professionals talking that not necessarily been very good at maths, but it is more than that, and that sort of strategic analysis is there's lots of other key skills that are required. So how many tests, I guess, exams there are to obtain the ACCA qualification?
Yeah, that's a good one. So there's three level. Well, there's different levels of ACCA. So you can do the foundation levels, and there's 9 exams in that. That gets you up to a level 4, which is where most people start. And then there's 3 exams, 5 exams, 4 exams, so whatever that is, 13. Yeah, so it's not so much about the number of exams, it's also about how long it takes. So it can take 2 or 3 years, at least, to kind of get through the qualifications. And I think the feedback I get from all trainee accountants at all levels is it's hard work. The exams are tough, and particularly if you're studying and working, you need to put the time in. However, once you are qualified, then it really is, lots of opportunities open up to you. Lots of people take that qualification. They might train in one sector and move to another sector, and they quickly, go up the levels as well, because those kind of those sound financial skills are so critical for any business. So a lot of people do qualify as an accountant, and then actually they don't actually work as an accountant, but they've got that financial knowledge that if they're running their own business, they understand how a business works. But there's more information about the content of our qualification, on our website and in the resources that George has mentioned.
Yeah, and there will be a follow-up after this. I think there's another question, Christabel, either you're going to university or one of the students, about tips for success at uni doing accounting and finance. I mean, from my perspective, is to be motivated, do your studying, and look for opportunities to get any work experience during the time at uni, because there'll be that will make you stand out when you go into the world of work. So yeah. Oh, so how flexible is accounting and finance in terms of career paths? So once you have the ACCA qualification, it's a global passport that can take you everywhere over the world. So it's a very flexible qualification that can lead you to many different paths and many different routes in your career. So okay, well, if there's any last question, otherwise we will look to wrap the session up. So thank you all very much for joining this afternoon session. A recording of this will be circulated to those registered and those attended. Please do provide us with your feedback, yeah, good luck to advising with your students, and hopefully we can visit your school sometime soon.
Thanks very much.